Disturbing video from inside of Robb Elementary in Uvalde, Texas, has been released by the Austin American-Statesman newspaper. Officials there are angry because they say they were going to be releasing the video on Sunday, but the newspaper released it on Tuesday. We want to warn you that some of the videos you're about to watch are extremely graphic. Folks, here you can see the gunman entering the building up until the moment where the shooting began. Now, you're going to be again, you see the gunman there. You see one of the kids take off there. It is, trust me, extremely shocking video to have to witness. Also, the officers, when they arrive on the scene, they wait more than an hour to engage the suspect. And folks, if y'all roll the video, you'll see the officers coming in as they're now going down the hallway. But here's what's crazy, folks. So you see, this is totally different than what we were initially told. You see, there are 4 officers who are there in the hallway. Now you see 5, 6 officers. Now you see 7 officers. You see enough individuals there where they could have went into that room and saved those children. Now they're backing off. We've heard so many lies from authorities. Remember that we were told they were waiting to get a key to enter the classroom. That was a lie. Remember they initially told us, oh, the brave law enforcement and the actions they took. That was a lie. We found out they could have actually engaged with this shooter outside of the school. They said they could not. That was a lie. We have heard lie after lie. And in fact, the city of Uvalde, they tried to stop this from being released. Media outlets began to report. Here you have, guys, look at this here. You have 7 cops armed with assault weapons running away from one gunman. Remember, 19 children were gunned down. 2 adults were gunned down. And these cops, for more than an hour, were in that hallway. There's video of one officer, again, putting hand sanitizer on. There's another officer who was looking at his phone during the whole thing. It is utterly outrageous. Joining us now is Congressman from Houston, Congressman Al Green. Congressman, glad to have you on the show. Last night, there was a news conference, and there were parents who were upset that they did not get to see this video before it released. City officials were angry with the Austin American-Statesman, saying they should have waited. Here's some of what the parents said last night.
Another parent got a call saying that somebody got a hold of it. It got released and got leaked. And they didn't have our permission from us to do so. And it went on the air not too long ago, and they were supposed to do it without our consent. For one, they didn't have our consent, and we didn't want any audio, and these SOBs did it. It got leaked.
We're very angry, and we want justice for our kids, and for this to be let out without us even being seen first. We are the parents that lost our children. We're supposed to do this together first, not for the world. We're suffering, and I know the world is suffering too, but these were our babies that were taken from us. So to the person that leaked it, screw you, and that's coming from me, Felicia Martinez, from all of us. Screw you.
Congressman Green, I understand the anger of the parents. Whoopi Goldberg was on The View, and she blasted the Austin American-Statesman, saying that she said it was just wrong for them to do this here. I worked at the Austin American-Statesman out of college. As a member of the media, and this has to be said, Congressman, that video, that's public records. The reality is, we have heard lies from day one. And the record needs to be corrected about what took place. And so I believe the American Statesman did the right thing by releasing the video, because all we have gotten from the city of Uvalde and from the Uvalde School District and from Texas Governor Greg Abbott have been lies. And this is the public right to know involved here. So just your thoughts about this whole sordid affair.
Well, it's a sad, sordid affair. It's the kind of thing that you hope would never happen. And the pain that these family members are enduring is not something that anyone should have to suffer. It makes tears well in your eyes and your heart bleeds. I see the cover-up, and that's what it is. It's a cover-up. Because this is very similar, not the same, but similar to the George Floyd video. But for the video in the George Floyd case, I don't think we'd have the verdicts that we have now. The video spoke the truth to power. This video speaks truth to power. And it shows persons, these good guys with guns, who are supposed to be able to take out bad guys with guns, standing around, cleaning their hands, sanitizing, talking to each other, hearing gunshots, hearing screams. I am told that there's a video with an audio that reveals the screams of the children. If all of this is happening, there has to be some accountability. Just as there was accountability for George Floyd, there has to be accountability for these families. These officers cannot be allowed to simply indicate they were waiting for additional support and help. They had guns, they had body armor, they had shields, and they didn't have the one thing that they should have had, and that was the will to save lives. This is what they were sworn to do. I regret that it happened this way, but they have to be held accountable. This is a cover-up, and every person who did not speak up about this is involved in this cover-up. Every person who is involved in it has to be punished in some way.
And that, Congressman, is why I believe the American Statesman should have released this, because we flat out cannot trust anything that comes out of Uvalde. We can't trust any of it. We can't trust any. When they had that news conference and Beto O'Rourke stood up and called them out, they chastised him. How dare you? Shut up and sit down. And they were all up there lying.
And that was the governor's news conference, by the way. When he approached, he was approaching the governor of the state of Texas. So the governor of the state of Texas himself was a part of this, either wittingly or unwittingly, but a part of it, and the governor himself ought to be demanding more. The governor has awesome power. He has awesome executive powers, and he has a force that he can use. But the governor is too busy trying to avoid passing gun safety laws to allow himself to get involved with this. I believe we need to start at the very top or the bottom and work our way to the top, but the governor is involved in this. And he needs to make sure that he clears his name. His name hasn't been cleared for me. The governor needs to do more.
I've seen where other parents said, how dare Uvalde be more angry about the release of the video, if they're calling a leak, than actually what's on the video.
Yeah, that's quite remarkable, isn't it? That the constabulary, the members of the city constabulary and the police, the council members perhaps, I'm not sure who they all are, the mayor. I heard one member of the official body there indicate that he was so upset about the release of this. And while I can understand the family members being upset, they would expect the courtesy of seeing this. But what I don't understand is how we can say that it shouldn't be released at all. and there are some people who are saying this. This is what it's going to take to get justice for these families. This video being shown, this is an Edmund Pettus Bridge moment. It was the crossing of the Edmund Pettus Bridge shown across the world that made a difference for civil rights in this country. It is a viewing of this video that's going to make a difference for those families in Uvalde. I understand their pain and their suffering, and I'm grieving with them, but I don't feel their pain. This is pain that I can't feel. But I do believe that they have a right to say to people how they feel about it, and I respect that. Now, I want to add one additional thing. If we had more than 15 officers with body armor, shields, and guns, and they did not take out this bad guy with the gun, how can we expect a teacher with a pistol to take out bad guys with guns?
Right. I mean, we're showing the video right now. They literally have assault weapons. They have the protective armor that you normally see with riots that's bulletproof. They have that right there. And we're talking about more than 15 cops. It's one guy with a gun in the classroom. It's 19 kids, 2 adults. It's about 15 of them, and they were scared to go down the hallway.
It literally raises your blood pressure, and it causes you to become irate. I understand it. And for us to make this argument that teachers ought to be armed, this in fact disproves that theory. This is the proof beyond a reasonable doubt. It's the clear and convincing evidence. It's all we need to get rid of this myth that we need to arm the teachers. Let teachers teach. Let's make sure that schools are secure. And that way we don't worry about bad guys having to be taken out. And I contend still that to do this properly, we've got to do something about these assault weapons that are on our streets. I am standing where I've been. I will continue to be here. We've got to get these AR-15 type assault weapons off our streets, these bump stocks, these high-capacity magazines. There is no reason for us to allow this to continue. And I would warn all of my colleagues, those who vote against these gun safety rules to protect the public, you have the blood of people in Uvalde on your hands. And when this continues, you will have the blood of people on your hands. Because we can stop this, we don't have to have these guns on the streets. And we are the people who can do it. The question is, will we get the will, or will we be like these officers? All of us standing around, casting our votes, knowing that lives are going to be lost in the future. They've already been lost in the past, and we know that it's going to happen again.
This is from the American-Statesman right here. To your particular point about how these things change, the Uvalde, let me try to pull it up here, the Uvalde County Commissioners, they are now calling on Governor Greg Abbott to call a special session to raise the age to buy assault rifles to 21. This is the type of pressure that is needed to get action in these cases.
It is. And let me tell you who should be a party to applying pressure. The business community.
Yep.
It's time for the business community to take a stand. Dr. King said the truest measure of the person is not where you stand in times of comfort and convenience, but where do you stand in times of challenge and controversy? Where does the business community stand on these assault-type weapons? Tops was a business. That was a grocery store. The Walmart was a business. We are finding that businesses are going to suffer, and as a result, people in the neighborhood suffer. I'm having a hearing next week, and we're going to, at that hearing, examine how these mass shootings impact the economy, impact housing, impact communities. And we're finding that people want to move away from communities where there's a mass shooting. We're finding that businesses will lose money after a mass shooting takes place. This business community has to speak up. They cannot be allowed to simply sit silently by and count their profits.
Absolutely. Congressman Al Gray, we surely appreciate this. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you, sir. Honor to be on. Thank you.
I want to bring in my panel right now. Joining me right now is Tanya Washington Hicks, professor at Georgia State University, College of Law, Robert Patillo, executive director, Rainbow Push Coalition, Peachtree Street Project, and we'll be joined shortly by Monique Presley, legal analyst and host of Make It Make Sense with Monique Presley. Robert, I'm going to start with you. You are someone, you own a number of guns. We've talked about that on the show. This is pure cowardice, Robert. I mean, when you see that video, and when you, and again, I get parents being upset, but when you see this video and you see, look at the number of law enforcement that is in that hallway. Are you serious?
You're absolutely correct. And I definitely empathize with the parents. I'm not quite sure why there was an imperative to release this before the agreed upon date. I can't imagine the pain of being a parent and being at work, and then this shows up on the television screen where you're not prepared for it, or if you thought there was a date where this would be released, and now it's on social media percolating, the amount of trauma that could cause. So I do think that they should have released it at the agreed upon time. But that does not absolve the police department of the absolute failures at every single level. Everything they told us for the first 2 weeks of this investigation was an outright lie. I'm not talking about a misunderstanding, not a shading of the truth. Absolute outright lies. And they acted as if they didn't know there was video that was coming out. They knew that the school had video. They knew that there was surveillance. They knew that eventually the truth would come out, but they still lied. There are provisions of Texas state law that allow the state to come in and dissolve a local law enforcement department and then rebuild it from the ground up, and that appears to be what is needed. These individuals had bulletproof vests on. It's very unlikely that the shooter in this case was walking around with armor-piercing ammo where they had to be afraid to go in there. Initially, they said they did not have the weaponry. We saw multiple individuals with AR-15s among law enforcement. We saw them running away from the door. The fact that they had the opportunity to engage this person prior to going into the school and were directly behind him going inside, and then listened to children screaming and being slaughtered directly in front of them, and did absolutely nothing. I don't believe anybody in this entire chain of command or in this police department should be allowed to keep their job at this point in time. You have to dissolve that department. It is corrupt from the bottom up, every level of leadership, and start over from the ground up.
Congressman Green, what about that? I mean, do you believe that this department should be terminated and start from the ground up? Because, I mean, I don't know how anybody could trust anybody in this department with the lies that we have heard in the past month. Should this department be dissolved and rebuilt, Congressman?
Thank you for inviting me back in. I'm sorry I missed my cue. I concur with you. This is what I mean by the governor and the executive branch having this awesome amount of authority. I think that this cover-up is something that is unlike things that we have seen before. And you have to take extraordinary measures, unlike we see in most times. So yes, I would concur. Let's start anew. Let's do what we can to give assurances that we won't have this level of insidious prevarication to manifest itself. And I think the best way to do that is to start from the ground up. We do need to do this. And the governor has that kind of authority, and he ought to use his awesome authority to deal with this awesome cover-up.
Tanya, your thoughts?
You know, I want to just say that I understand the parents having to witness this before they were prepared for it and to witness it in public. And so I do want to say that their outrage at having to see this before they had a chance to process it is warranted. It is not warranted, however, for the public officials to be more outraged about the leak than they are about what I think you aptly describe, Roland, as pure cowardice. These people are being paid to protect and serve. They did neither in that instance. And if they're afraid of these weapons, if the police are afraid of these weapons, then the public doesn't need to have them. And there were parents who were confined, who were trying to get into that building to save their kids. If the police aren't going to do something, let the parents do what parents do for children, which is protect them. It is absolutely outrageous.
Indeed. Monique Presley, we were just showing, we showed the video. We got Congressman Al Green on. And it's to watch that video and to watch the number of cops in that hallway for an hour. And we're not playing the audio for a reason, but they did nothing. They didn't even go. They stood outside. How do you, one gunman with an assault rifle, 15, 20 cops, and they did not engage knowing full well what was happening inside?
I didn't hear anybody.
Monique?
Yeah.
Again, your thoughts on the release of this video of the Austin American-Statesman, just showing the sheer incompetence of these Uvalde cops after they lied to us and talked about how just courageous and brave they were in this case.
Oh, I'm sorry. I couldn't hear you, so I didn't hear the question the first time. Forgive me. But no, everything about this is hideous. It's a worst case scenario. It's a complete failure, lack of responsibility to do the one thing that they're responsible for, which is to keep us safe. There was a breakdown of protocols. There was an abandonment of position and of responsibility, to me, across the board.
It is just, again, it's just incredible what we're seeing here. Congressman, do you believe that, I mean, we've seen the Supreme Court decision when it comes to the issue of guns in New York State. We saw, of course, the gun bill that was signed into law Monday by President Joe Biden. I would hope, I would really, really hope that Texans are really taking seriously this gubernatorial election and to show how Greg Abbott, Dan Patrick, and Republicans in the state have utterly failed Texans, not just when it comes to guns, but the number of mass shootings that have happened in Texas in the past 5 years. I mean, shoot, let's not even bring up the electrical grid and that absolute mess that's happening there. I mean, these people do not need to be in power.
Well, you'll get an amen from me. If you want to add to the story, what about Hurricane Harvey and persons who are still suffering, and the way the government's land office in Texas thwarted the efforts to help people who are indeed in need of help, and tried as best as they could to send the money to people who were barely impacted by the hurricane. Houston was the epicenter of this hurricane, received over a trillion gallons of water. So yes, the list is long. And I contend that people ought to vote their interest. So if you had a problem with your electricity and you understand that it hasn't really been repaired, vote your interest. You're worried about Hurricane Harvey and similar thing happening to you because we are susceptible to these things. We live along the Gulf Coast. Vote your interest. If you think that guns in the hands of 18-year-olds is something that's liable, as opposed to making persons who sell these guns to these people liable, you still have to vote your interest. And I would also contend that these gun manufacturers, they have to be given the same treatment that other major corporations that deal with lethality have. They can't be immune from prosecution. And I'm talking about civil litigation. They can't. We've got to do something about that. So the governor has a lot on his plate. And if people will vote their interest, we'll probably have a new government in the state of Texas next year.
Well, I certainly hope that is the case. Congressman Al Green, we appreciate it. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, sir.
Folks, Black Star Network is here.
Hold no punches.
I'm real revolutionary right now.
Support this man, Black Media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America, Roland.
Stay black. I love y'all.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, this difference between Black Star Network and black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?